Hey there, I'm Brian LaRosa, and welcome to LaRosa's Trains. Today we're going to take a look at something I've always wanted to collect as a piece of history from Mike's Train House. This is the RailKing 3-rail O-gauge Baltimore and Ohio Doodlebug motor car, equipped with the original Proto-Sound system, also known as PS1. Up until this year, all of my powered MTH engines have Proto-Sound 2.0 or 3.0, both of which are linked with the Digital Command System, or DCS. PS1, on the other hand, does not come with DCS because it is only used for conventional engines like my newly arrived Doodlebug. By the time DCS came out in 2002, the MTH PS2 system had already supplanted its predecessor, and now I own my first conventional engine from the same old brand. Before I start my unboxing segment, I want to give you an important explanation regarding the current status of MTH. A lot of people had been misinformed about the retirement of Mike Wolf and had spread ominous rumors that the company he founded would be closing down forever. Well, this time around, I think they should be false, at least for now. I finally had to admit that MTH is still in business, although it already closed down its headquarters in Columbia, Maryland, and moved to a smaller location in Elk Ridge. It has also sold a lot of its tooling assets to various model train brands, including Atlas and Lionel. So it did go down in size and may not produce as many trains as it did before Mike's retirement. But nevertheless, MTH is still maintaining its good reputation in terms of quality, detail, and the technology used on all of its trains. You can once again expect the same features as what the company has always done. With everything I've just explained, I hope this gives you an idea that Mike's Train House is not dead, as of this video you're watching. Alright, we're ready to start unboxing. Now, as you can see, I've ordered this on eBay, and this particular item comes from Suffolk, Virginia. So here we go. Alright, here's the first side, and then the other side of the box. Good. And now the top. Just one more thing. There we go. Unfortunately, there are packing peanuts, but I'll manage. We'll clean these up off screen. There's the familiar. There's the familiar yellow and orange box for RailKing engines, like this one. I'm just going to move that box, outer box aside. Thank you. And there it is. Here's the Doodlebug in there. And And as you can see, it says it does have Proto-Sound 1. Now, I'll talk about the features later in this video. But let's open the actual engine. Here's the instruction book that comes with the engine, which is a good thing. I'll just set the outer box aside. And then very carefully take this out. Oop. I'll just put this styrofoam piece aside. Very nice paint scheme on the model. Now, one thing I need to do is the screw is a tiny bit loose, but I'll fix it. But yeah, it's a very lovely model. So now, even though this is a PS1 engine, I'm hoping it will work best on my layout, especially if I'm gonna run this with my DCS system, which hopefully should be backwards compatible with any PS1 engine. So we'll find out about it later in this video. So, and there you are, the unboxing segment for the MTH Doodlebug. Let's start with some history of the Doodlebug, and then we'll get to this model. A Doodlebug is defined as a self-propelled passenger coach, usually equipped with a gasoline engine, located inside the baggage compartment. It works similarly to a diesel-electric locomotive because it includes a generator that powers the traction motors. The purpose of the Doodlebug was to replace steam locomotives that carried both freight and passenger trains on branch lines. That successfully resulted in higher efficiency and lower operating costs on those small lines. In 1904, the first known motorized railcar was engineered by General Electric. The Barney and Smith Company originally sold the combine baggage coach for the Delaware and Hudson Railway, and a 6-cylinder automobile engine was manufactured by a British company called Wolseley. Rated at 140 horsepower and numbered D&H 1000 or GE number 1, the Doodlebug demonstrator was experimented on the same railroad that bought the coach. Later, General Electric constructed 2 more demo railcars and numbered them as 2 and 3. Both of them were propelled by GE's own gasoline engines and had their bodies fabricated by a different car builder, the Wason Manufacturing Company. By the early 1920s, GE ended production of gas-electric Doodlebugs, but it did play a vital role in manufacturing electrical components for the newly established Electromotive Engineering Corporation, or EMC. This company teamed with various car builders such as Bethlehem Steel, Osgood Bradley, Pullman, Standard Steel, and the St. Louis Car Company. In 1924, the first example of an EMC motor car, the M300, was delivered to the Chicago Great Western Railway. The St. Louis Car Company assembled this product with its combine coach design, the GE electrical equipment, and the Winton distillate engine, rated at 175 horsepower. Later EMC Doodlebugs used various Winton gasoline engines, producing between 225 and 400 horsepower. Other noteworthy railcar builders include the J.G. Brill Company and the McKean Motor Car Company. By the time the United States joined the Allied forces of World War II, no more Doodlebugs were known to be built. However, the Budd Company debuted the popular rail diesel car, or RDC, in 1949, which sort of marked the revival of the Doodlebug concept, but that's another story. The older motor cars were retired by the early 60s when automobiles became more popular and many branch lines became less profitable. Most of them might have been scrapped, but some were given new careers by a track inspection service called Sperry Rail. And of course, some other survivors were sent to various museums. For example, Montana Western number 31 is an EMC St. Louis Doodlebug that was assembled in 1925 and is preserved today at the Mid-Continent Railway Museum in North Freedom, Wisconsin. It is considered to be the oldest surviving electromotive product ever built. And now for the O-gauge model. MTH first offered the RailKing Doodlebug in its 1998 Volume 2 catalog. Initially, there were only two different paint schemes, the Baltimore and Ohio, which is what I own, and the Santa Fe. This model is based on an electromotive rail car, probably with its Pullman-style body. Next, the Chicago and Northwestern and the Pennsylvania versions were featured in the 1999 Volume 2 catalog. It should be noted that each Doodlebug was available in two options, one with an electronic horn and the other with the MTH Proto-Sound 1 system. My engine actually does have PS1 on board. Additionally, in the 2000 Volume 1 catalog, MTH announced a non-powered version in each of the first four railroad names mentioned. Then, beginning with the second volume of that same year, the RailKing Doodlebugs were built with the new Proto-Sound 2.0 system. In this catalog, they were offered in the Boston and Maine and Union Pacific paint schemes, and each of them were available with PS2 or the less expensive Loco-Sound electronics. The final RailKing Doodlebugs were featured in MTH's 2006 Volume 2 catalog and were painted in the B&O, Pennsy, Santa Fe, and the Maryland and Pennsylvania railroads. All of these have exclusively PS2 and interestingly include two passenger cars as a set. There is even an uncatalogued PS2 equipped Ligonier Valley engine that was made in 2007. Since then, there are no MTH Doodlebugs available with Proto-Sound 3.0 for unknown reasons. However, Lionel introduced its own rendition of the O-gauge Doodlebug in its 2022 Volume 1 catalog. This product essentially comes from the former MTH tooling and is now equipped with LionG Plus 2.0. Alright, here's the actual view of my Doodlebug. This model measures approximately 16 inches long, weighs nearly 4 pounds, and like most RailKing engines, can run on curves as tight as 0.31. It has a modestly detailed ABS plastic body, die-cast trucks, all-metal wheels and gears, and the colorful B&O paint scheme. Under the hood, this engine contains an operating headlight, an illuminated interior, two flywheel motors, one powering each truck, the DCRU electronic reverse unit, And as mentioned before, the original Proto-Sound 1 system, MTH teamed up with Quantum Sound Industries, or QSI, to install both the DCRU and PS1 on many early engines. The Doodlebug is intended to be controlled conventionally with a compatible AAC transformer. I have only one transformer that has its own throttle handle, which is the 80-watt CW80 made by Lionel. I first tested the PS1 engine directly with that device, and it ran smoothly. The sounds work fantastically too. The horn, bell, and especially the passenger station announcements are awesome. I could not find any problems while running with the transformer. And yes, PS1 does have the famous Passenger Freight Announcements feature, or PFA, for those of you who are not familiar with that system. Since the MTH DCS system came out, I always thought that it should be compatible with any 3-rail O-gauge conventional locomotives, including those equipped with Proto-Sound 1. Unfortunately, when I tested the Doodlebug with DCS, the horn would not stop whistling every time I moved it forward or reverse. Oddly enough, this is a similar problem to my Lionel Polar Express train sounds tender that I reviewed last month. In fact, on the track section of the DCS handheld remote, there are two soft key features related to the operation of PS1 engines. The first is labeled PS1, which allows you to instantly start up a locomotive at 8 volts. The other feature is labeled MPG, which provides a list of advanced features that you can program without having to move the throttle up and down or pressing the direction button so many times on a transformer. Examples include sound volume adjustment, turning the coupler on or off, enabling or disabling PFA or cab chatter, squeaking brake control, and reset factory defaults, to name a few. Depending on the feature you choose, the DCS system will automatically send an appropriate number of power cuts to the track, and you'll hear a combination of clinks and clanks, indicating that a particular feature is being programmed. I tried using MPG on the remote, but it didn't quite work as expected, so I don't think I should keep running the Doodlebug with my DCS system, which is kind of disappointing. I don't know why my PS1 engine is unhappy with DCS, but I'm sure there's a reason behind the problem. Maybe there's a software issue with this system, since it has already received its latest digital upgrades. Now, I'm not an expert in MTH electronics, so don't quote me on that. With that being explained, a lot of people have upgraded many old PS1 engines with PS2 or 3 for more direct compatibility with DCS, which is understandable. In fact, I do have one MTH engine formerly equipped with its PS1 system, but was later converted with the PS2 upgrade kit. Now, I know some of you are not big fans of Proto-Sound 1, but I honestly like to enjoy and appreciate it, don't get me wrong. And it's not because it's realistic, since Proto-Sounds 2 and 3 are assumed to offer much more prototypical features, but I consider the nostalgia associated with the older system. Why is that? Well, it totally reminds me of a video series that I used to be obsessed with as a kid. It's called I Love Toy Trains, produced by TM Books and Video. Initially, I had no idea that some of the sound effects used in the series are actually PS1. TM also produced a video showing MTH layouts, and then I realized that these are the sounds. If you're familiar with I Love Toy Trains, you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's check out a few details on the RailKing Doodlebug. Starting with the front, there's the headlight that I mentioned earlier, and also two marker lights. The engine number and the B&O herald look nice. There's the operating proto-coupler that can be fired at any location. I'll explain more about it when we start up this engine. And there's even a cowcatcher around the coupler. Here's a look at the top of the engine. There isn't much detail on the roof line because this is a RailKing model, and it's usually plain on a passenger coach. But we do have some box detail behind the headlights, a brass looking bell, and 3 smokestacks. There is no smoke unit inside the MTH Doodlebug, but I do want to point out that the Lionel version will actually have an operating smoke unit underneath these stacks, which is cool. Here's a brief look at one side of the engine's body. The cab and the baggage doors do not open, but they do have clear plastic inserts, as with all of the other windows on this engine. And then we have the nicely printed railroad lettering, Baltimore, Ohio, and number 6005. Now the other side of the engine looks pretty identical to this side. Last but not least, the rear of the Doodlebug looks well done. There's another pair of marker lights, a rubber diaphragm with a door that doesn't open, and of course the operating rear coupler. This is what the electronics look like inside the Doodlebug. Notice a few interior details such as the seats, which simply hide the wires and other stuff from being seen. I took the shell off the engine because I wanted to know what type of battery is used. In most of the modern O-gauge locomotives that feature digital sounds, a battery is typically required, not to motorize an engine, but only for backing up the sounds. Basically, it protects them from being cut off in such instances as a train running over a dirty or dead spot on the track, and when power is interrupted by moving the transformer throttle down or pressing its direction button. If the power is off for a few seconds, a locomotive's sound system will activate a shutdown sequence with the help from its battery. Before taking the shell off the Doodlebug, I initially assumed that the battery inside is rechargeable and does not leak or cause damage to the electronics. Most people who are familiar with MTH do not recommend ordinary batteries, but I soon realized it's a good idea to verify, and this engine does have the rechargeable 8.4 volt NiMH battery. It has been used on Proto-Sound 1 engines, as well as early PS2 engines that have a 5 volt system, to my knowledge. Later PS2 models with a 3 volt system were built with a special port for a battery charger that can easily be plugged into a wall outlet. Alternatively, whether you have PS1 or 2 engines, the battery can be recharged with track power as long as the locomotive is in neutral, but it can take several hours for a full charge. Finally, Proto-Sound 3 models no longer need batteries because they now use all electrical capacitors for sound backups. We're now at the underside of the Doodlebug. There are 2 pickup rollers, 1 under each truck, 4 traction tires, 2 for the rear axle of the front truck, and another 2 for the front axle of the rear truck, and a couple of controls for this engine. There's the master volume screw located in front of the rear truck, some molded in undercarriage detail, as well as separately applied footsteps in the middle, and located behind the front truck is a switch that is used to activate either the front proto-coupler or the rear coupler. It should be noted that only one of them will work during operation, and as you can see, the switch is set to make the rear coupler active on this engine. Now, while we're at it, there is one on-off switch that is not available. I believe it's for direction lock control that is only used on the non-Proto-Sound version of the Doodlebug, but the PS1 unit that I own doesn't require that switch. Okay, we're almost ready to run the Doodlebug, but before we do that, I want to point out a few operating considerations unique to MTH Proto-Sound 1 locomotives. First of all, when you apply power to the track, the PS1 system will initiate in reset mode. In this condition, you may program the advanced features by using the throttle handle or the direction button on your transformer. Now these features are optional and appear to be just engine settings, so I'm not going to demonstrate any of them in this video. Secondly, in order for a PS1 locomotive to begin running properly, you should wait for at least 2 to 3 seconds before it phases out of the reset state. Of course, you will hear the engine startup sounds while waiting for it to go. And then lastly, by default, the horn will not function when the engine is in neutral. However, if you wish to turn on the horn, it is possible to adjust this setting in reset mode as soon as you put the train to a complete stop. This condition will occur when track power is turned off for 3 or more seconds. Otherwise, you'll have to move the locomotive forward or reverse before blowing the horn. For additional information about PS1 engines, please see the description of this video and find a link to an online copy of the instruction manual that came with the Doodlebug. Okay, let's start up the bug, and then we'll run around my layout for a few minutes. Now the first thing you'll hear are 2 dings of the bell, followed by the engine startup sound. So, here it comes. It's now ready for action. Usually I start my sound demonstration with the horn, but because this one does not work in neutral, I'm going to make the Doodlebug move. So, let's go. I'll play the horn in just a second. Pretty cool. Let's play the bell. I think my favorite feature on the Doodlebug this time around is the passenger station announcements feature. To activate this feature on a PS1 engine like this, you simply press and hold the bell button for 3 seconds. So, let's see if it works. feature I'm going to show you is the MTH Proto-Coupler. I've added one brake car behind the Doodlebug for this demonstration. First, make sure the engine is in neutral and move the throttle to a high enough voltage. Then press the whistle button to arm the coupler. In my case, I'm activating the one on the rear of the locomotive. The PS1 system will produce a special sound effect to indicate that the coupler has been armed, so watch what happens. Okay, the coupler has been armed. Next, press the whistle button again, and the uncoupling action will be performed. You can uncouple the engine in any direction other than neutral, as long as it moves at a reasonably slow speed. So, here it goes. Alright, that about wraps it up for this video. I'm super glad to have the RailKing Doodlebug as my first conventional MTH engine with the original Proto-Sound system. It's a pity that it doesn't work very well with my DCS system, but I sincerely believe PS1 will always be remembered, and I personally hate to see this system becoming extinct, since many of the 1990s era MTH locomotives had been upgraded with PS2 or 3. And that's why I wanted to collect this engine. I nominated the Doodlebug as the best candidate to be my first PS1 engine for two reasons. First of all, the year 2022 commemorates the 100th anniversary of electromotive diesel. I do have a few O-gauge EMD locomotives, such as the Santa Fe F3, the Jersey Central NW2 switcher, both of which are Lionel post-war engines, and the RailKing Norfolk Southern Heritage SD70 ACE diesel that was made with Proto-Sound 3 by MTH in 2012. So this Doodlebug is a nice addition to the EMD lineup. And second of all, I've had a lot of 6-axle freight engines, such as the SD70 and the GE ES44AC, but not so many 4-axle passenger locomotives like my Amtrak Genesis. As a result, I felt the need for more people movers, and the Doodlebug just fits very well in my fleet with its pre-installed passenger station announcements feature. Anyway, that concludes my video review of the MTH RailKing Doodlebug with Proto-Sound 1. Thanks for watching. I'm Brian LaRosa, and I'll see you next time.